Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, folks. How are you doing? It's Danny Tisdale, and you're listening to the Danny Tisdale Show on Harlem World Radio. I really hope you are all doing well, and you know how we do it. If you have any questions, hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, wherever you might be on your social. Hashtag Harlem World Magazine. Today we welcome another one of our leaders, legends, and trailblazers in Harlem. It's Geoffrey Eaton to Harlem World Magazine as we celebrate the greatest community in the world, Harlem. Geoffrey Eaton is the new Director of Community Affairs and Diversity for Touro College and Touro College Pharmacy in Harlem. Mr. Eaton co-chairs the Touro Harlem Community Advisory Board, of which he is a founding member. Mr. Eaton is a lifelong Harlem resident and with a distinguished career in public service. We love that. He serves as first vice president, of the NAACP New York State Conference and president of the NAACP Mid-Manhattan branch. This brother is busy. Mr. Eaton previously served as chief of staff of legendary Harlem Congressman Charles B. Rangel. He oversaw the New York Empowerment Zone and the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone and the Community Development Corporation and the West Harlem Development Corporation. I said earlier to him, how does he have the time to do all this? Prior to his work with Congressman Rangel, he amassed over 20 years of experience in New York City government. He volunteers with several civic, cultural community organizations, including one of my favorite, the Harlem Arts Alliance, since I'm an artist, the City College of New York City, President's Advisory Council. He has received numerous awards, and I'm sure will receive many more awards like the NAACP National and State Conference Awards, including the first ever Medgar Wiley Evers NAACP New York State Medal of Freedom Award, and many, many others. And thank you for your community service. Mr. Eaton, how are you doing today?
I'm doing terrific. How are you doing, Danny?
I'm doing great,
man.
Great
to be on your show today.
And thank you for being on the show, and congratulations on your new position. But before we get started, I want to send you our condolences for your father's passing in March. Much love to him and to your family for that homegoing.
Oh, thank you so much, and that is really touching for us. And it's been painful, but we've had a lot of support, and want to thank you and your listeners for being supportive of us too.
Well, and I appreciate that, brother, because I, lost my mother a few years ago, which brings me. I'm bouncing back and forth from the West Coast to the East Coast, so I definitely, feel you. But I wanted to find out about some of the work that you're doing as you kind of, I guess in my own words, continue in the work that he has done. And this might be too obvious, but who's inspired you in your work in politics, Geoffrey?
I would say my mother Dolores and my father Donald, and I lost my mother the day after Christmas in 2015, so it's still very close.
Right.
They were my inspiration, and I tell you why. Growing up in public housing, where I grew up, it was the Colonial Park houses, which is now known after Ralph Rangel houses, renamed after Congressman Rangel's brother, because he was such a huge community leader and advocate for not only the young people, but for everyone and seniors. And he basically raised Congressman Rangel and navigated his career. And that was good living back in those days. And I remember back then you could leave your door open in the public housing. And they used to deliver the milk in bottles and leave it at your door, and no one would take your milk. But it was a real community and a village. The postman used to watch out for you. The maintenance worker looked out for you. When they say it takes a village to raise a child, it was a village. And that inspired us, because back in those times, and growing up, I was born in 1958, you had to stick together because at that time we didn't have equal and fair and justice for African Americans at that time. You know, the South was exploding with the Civil Rights Movement. The North was exploding with the Black National Movement. And you had to work together as a team so that we can pull everybody ahead. So we all stand on everyone's shoulders, including my mother and my father.
I hadn't heard the story of Rangel's brother, but I had heard something about his brother, but not the story that you mentioned. And, you know, as I, you know, look back, you know, it kind of grew up the same way. You definitely didn't, you know, lock your doors, and yep, the milkman would leave the milk outside, and you never thought that someone would take it. You know, whenever you went and got it, it was there. So I hear you, and to have you know, both mom and pop to be the inspirations in your work is says a lot about you know, who you are and the work that they've done. And you know, as you started telling me earlier, as we spoke, that you started already in your new job as Director of Community Affairs and Diversity for Touro College. I'm curious. So, what will you actually be doing? What are you doing? Because you started already. So, what are you doing in that position, Geoffrey?
So, it's an extension of what we were doing as a Community Advisory Board, and I'll give you a little history. Back in 2007, when the school was established on 125th Street in the famed Bloomstein's department store building, and we know the history of Bloomstein's department store and the history of 125th Street, being able to get jobs and work there and shop there, and it's come a long way. And as you know, 60 years ago, last December, Dr. King was, we just celebrated his 60th anniversary, where he was stabbed at Bloomstein's doing a book signing, and then rushed to Harlem Hospital and when Harlem saved the King. So there's a lot of history on 125th Street, and Touro's mission when they took that pledge was to increase underrepresented minorities into the medical science field. And their mission was, we on 125th Street want to give back to the community, and part of their mission is to provide that type of service and outreach and enrollment. Across the board, we have a very shortage. As blacks make up 12% of the overall population of the United States, we only make up 5% of black doctors. And even in the Native American and Hispanic community, that number is even alarmingly lower.
Oh, yeah, right, right.
So, you know, they come into town, and people were very nervous about who Touro was and what is this Orthodox institution going to do for Harlem. So we got together, Congressman Rangel, and we met with the team at Touro to talk about the vision, and it was a plus for us to have a major leading medical school on 125th Street that can inspire our young people to say, there's a major medical school on 125th Street, and I want to go there. And we want to do, and that's the kind of work that we did as a Community Advisory Board. And the original 5 members were the Honorable C. Virginia Fields, former Manhattan Borough President, Michael Hardy, Esquire, who's the Executive Vice President, General Counsel to National Action Network, business leader Walter Edwards, and founder of Harlem Business Alliance, and of course my leader, my sister, Dr. Hazelyn Dukes, who is the president of the state conference of NAACP. And we got together and we engaged the school to engage our community. And one of the things we wanted to do was, first of all, engage the students who are going to be students there to get involved in the community, to help us with the health disparities that are happening in Harlem, in the greater Harlem community. They can provide an opportunity to help and deliver the message of wellness, healthy living, and actually go out in the community and engage our community on health. And at the same time, we want to make sure that our community gets the same, reciprocates that same kind of mission to engage Touro. So, you know, 100 Black Men is in that building. They have their regular meetings, and the precinct council meets there. We wanted to create an international village where the community sees Touro as a friendly place to have meetings, and also to have our community look at these people walking around in their white coats and white jackets wanting to be doctors. And one of the things we want to do was inspire our young people to embrace science, to embrace math, to embrace education as a means to economic success and academic excellence. and they too can become doctors. They too can achieve that same goal and then come back to their communities and provide that health care service that we desperately need. And that's what we did at Touro.
And that's fantastic, and certainly those it sounds like some challenging goals. And success is not a stranger to you. How do you think that you will meet some of those goals? I know that year to year you can kind of, count the numbers of, faces that have a tan to them. But how do you go about kind of reaching those goals, if you don't mind me asking about the secret to your success?
Sure. We talk about underrepresented minorities, okay? So that's our target market and basically the people in our community. So how do we meet those goals? So we engage our community, and one of the things that we came up with was, let's create a scholarship grant program for those students of color who are having to pay tuition and also having and their living means. Because you also have to find housing. You're in medical school. You also have to find a place to live that's affordable. And we found students and encouraged them to enroll into Touro, and we offer these grants to them, and we look at it as a need-to-need basis. And we found that the places that these young students, scholars, and future doctors come from are communities where they were coming from underserved communities. And a lot of their background was, I didn't go. I'm the only one in my family to go to college. I come from a very sick community, whether it's in Harlem, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in the Middle West, and that sort of spirit. And you write their stories, and we embrace them, and we give them that head start. And what Touro has done, they have several programs to help. Now, when you go apply for medical school, you have to take this thing called the MCAT. And you have to score very high on that test, and that's how they gauge what school you're going to go to. And of course, a lot of our community, underrepresented community, didn't have the same foundation that some of the privilege may have had, where they didn't have excellence in their high schools, excellence in their elementary schools, and that's a struggle we continue to do with today. So they created a master's of science, biological and science, and physical science program, so that they can come into Touro into the master's program. If they score low their MCAT, we'll accept them into that program. And then they take the same courses that a regular medical student will take. And then when they raise their grade up to a 3.45 plus, then they enroll into medical school and they start their first year. And we've seen a lot of our people that look like us that are in that master's program. And we have a graduation on Monday for the next graduate class that will be the next group of medical students, and I know they're going to be doctors. The other thing we did was they have a program called MedAchieve, and MedAchieve is geared to high school students. So we MedAchieve? MedAchieve. M-E-D hyphen Achieve program. And we take high school students, bring them into the institution of Touro, put a white coat on them, give them a stethoscope and a rubber hammer, and they go and they learn how to be doctors for the day. And they go with like a doc, for example, Dr. Coburn, who does the Med STEM program with simulation.
Nice.
They do simulation of treatment of bodies. Like if you, for example, if you're about to give birth, right? They have a robotic sort of model that actually gives birth. And the kids diagnosed, they take the temperature, they take the blood pressure, and when they give birth and have labor, is the head in the right direction or is it backwards?
Right.
And they have to talk about this. They consultate with each other, and they actually decide what treatments we should decide on based on the knowledge they have learned firsthand. And you should see their eyes.
Oh, I can imagine.
See them engaged. I went to one class with a group of kids from Thurgood Marshall, and they were doing embalming.
Oh.
And, you go to the funeral parlor. Now, there's a lot of money in embalming, right? And a lot of
I
money
know.
in that particular area, of course, you and I know
it's a pretty
well.
consistent business.
Yes, it is. And they learn. It's wow. And one reason why I wanted to
amazing.
reach out to our young people and get them inspired and re-inspire them, because a lot of them don't get out the neighborhood. They're stuck in the social media world of nonsense.
Right.
It's not going to help them at all. And then, you know, there's this whole gang violence issue that we're dealing with, and the social media has really escalated that. So when they go into and become doctors and learn how to save a life and not take a life, they have a different mindset of how they're going to treat each other and treat their bodies. We have a huge obesity problem in Harlem, and a renal disease that's one of the epicenters of renal disease is in Harlem. So, you know, these are the type of programs that also helps them learn about their bodies, how to respect their bodies, and respect someone else's body. And at the same time, I can be a doctor. I like this. And then it gives them a different mindset because you expose their brain, and they open like sponges. And they say, wow, I want to do this. And you know what? Their grades go up. And you never know, they may be a student enrolling in the class of 4 years from now. So those are a couple of programs that we have, and it's a really great program. And we support that through the Community Advisory Board by doing the Danny Tisdale Radio Show, because we want everyone to know about what the good news is happening at Touro. Right. And we have an incoming class of 135 students coming in on the week of June 20th, and 30% of that class is underrepresented minority, with 19% being black, 16% being Hispanic, and others. Now, that's a huge, big difference from when they opened that school in 2007, where we are now 10 years later, and that minority, that number is growing and is growing and is growing. And going to a graduation, I'm speaking at the master's program graduation on Monday, and look at that audience and see the different colors. And the mosaic that Mayor Dink used to talk about.
That's huge.
It's huge, and it brings tears to your eyes. I said, Dr.
I can imagine.
Last graduation at the Apollo, we were like, oh, my God. And
and we've been doing stories on the graduation, I think, since 2007, and, what you say is true. You can tell by the photographs, let's just say, how that's changed over the years. And I love when people put their money where their mouth is, and and helping making change for all. And Geoffrey, believe it or not, we're past that halfway mark already. And I just want our listeners to know that they're listening to the Danny Tisdale Show. Guess who? That's who I am, Danny Tisdale, and it's on Harlem World Radio. And we are speaking to Geoffrey Eaton. He is the new Director of Community Affairs and Diversity at Touro College, and we're talking about Meta-Achieve as one part of the conversation. And I wanted to ask you, Geoffrey, that's an exciting program. I love the idea. Before I go to this next question, I love the idea that they give the kids the tools that the doctors use, the garments that the doctors use, because, sometimes you dream about it, and you dream about having, these things on, using this equipment, and, here the program is fulfilling, one of the first steps in that dream, and that sounds pretty darn exciting.
Yes.
For that reason and others. Did you want to say anything, or can I go to my next question?
Well, as you said, when you put your money where your mouth is, I just want to go back to the Underrepresented Minority Scholarship Fund. We've raised $200,000 in the 10 years that we started this program, and we've given out $75,000 in grants that they don't pay back. It's a gift scholarship to students.
Wow.
And that's amazing. So, no debt. But there's always going to be some debt in medical school, but we try to limit
of course,
that debt for those so they can finish and actually achieve their goals and finish medical school.
Yeah, and it's so important to, you talk about here's where you're helping these students at this point in their life, but yet it's high school and there's middle school, and where those communities are struggling and where these students are struggling, help is needed. So it just talks about in general how much assistance is important no matter where they are in their life. And also I wanted to ask you, Geoffrey, we have a lot of influencers listening to the show, and we'll post it on the website and, do some social media after it's posted with business owners and execs. I was curious to pick your brain a little bit. How can those influencers, wherever they may be, but especially in Harlem, help the work that you're doing, the work that organizations like Touro is doing? How can these business owners, help, whether they're small business, medium, or large? How can we help?
By getting involved with what we're doing in the community. For example, if you're a business person, you want to be successful in business, you have to have clientele, right? And you also have to be able to engage community-based organizations. And what we've done with one of my roles is to engage community-based organizations like Harlem Mothers Save, like Street Corner Resources, where we know where our kids are, where we know where mothers and fathers have lost their children. They want to have hope for the other children in the community. So we engage those community-based organizations, and then we want our business people to also be involved. And one of the good things about getting involved is if you're starting a business, the best thing you can do is join the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, because that's a whole nother network of over 1,400 businesses and organizations and individuals that are networking all the time, working together on the betterment. Why we have Harlem Week and Harlem Month, because it just explodes the culture and the opportunities that abounds it. And that's another way of getting Touro involved. Touro has been doing the health screenings and health awareness and education. The students run a free health clinic once a month on Sunday, where they have 3 or 4 doctors, a senior doctor, a junior doctor, a technician, and then they have the students, and they actually bring people into the community. They come in and they sit with them for about a half hour to 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, giving them the screenings, giving them advice, finding out what's going on in their community, and then give them good referral with no insurance, limited insurance, or just come in, walk in. I need some support and some help. And that's a good thing. Great. So one thing I want to do is involve the faith-based organizations, our churches, to do spiritual health, spiritual Sunday, where I'll bring the students to a different church.
Great idea.
On a Sunday, where we can, after church service, we can do health screenings and bring information about diabetes and high-tech sodium, what you shouldn't eat, what you can eat, how you should be doing your exercise, and engage our seniors, engage our young people about the best thing they can do about taking care of their bodies. And at the same time, we can direct them to a clinic for free where they can go once a month on a Sunday to see a doctor, see a series of doctors, and give the students that experience to meet our community, learn about the Harlem Renaissance, and also get to explore some of the historic opportunities in historic museums, historic restaurants, the historic stories that you always tell in your show.
Oh, and I appreciate that. And you mentioned mothers, and I always want to give props to Jackie Rowe Adams, who I was on the community board with, who has been doing great work. And I think she lost her son back in the day, but continues to work in his name like so many others
she lost
in the community.
She lost
2 sons.
2 sons.
Yeah,
and she's a fighter, and she's a fighter
and a sweetheart, right?
And a sweet, beautiful, and my loving sister, and my Dr. Hazel Dukes, my sister in the struggle. I call her sister, she calls me bro, because health is one of our. We have 6 game changers in the NAACP, and it's health, it's economic development, sustainability, civic engagement, criminal justice reform, and public safety, youth engagement. And those are the key components of how you build community, supporting community, and sort of capturing some of those disparities and getting ahead of those things that we can provide that education piece. And that's what's so wonderful about Touro College of Osteopathic Medicine and Touro College of Pharmacy. because those institutions and those two schools there are a way out of poverty, are a way to economic excellence, and a way to come back as doctors or scientists to find next cure for our community to live healthier and better lives.
Brother, you are. I just love your eloquence. And speaking of health, I wanted to ask you. You've got a 2-hour-long bio here. You're working 20 years in the industry, in politics. What do you do to relax, or do you? You play golf, basketball, gaming, reading. What do you do to relax?
Well, I play hard with the NAACP. That's what relaxes me. I can go out there and that's what we play hard. NAACP. We're the oldest and the largest, the baddest and the boldest, the most cussed and discussed, the most feared and revered civil rights organization in the world, and we're 110 years old. So if you can't get a lift out of that and help your community be better, that's better than golf. That's better than a hobby. And that's really my hobby. I play hard.
And brother, you said that with the conviction of a 360 slam dunk behind the head home run swing. So you live your work and work what you live. And I want to move forward because we're down, Geoffrey, to the last 3 minutes, which is I knew that was going to happen. What's your favorite place in Harlem? I got 3 questions left for you. I'm going to try to squeeze them in. But what's your favorite place in Harlem? And let me just ask them all at one time. How can listeners stay in touch with you and possibly donate to either the Underrepresented Minority Fund or something else that you're doing? Your favorite place in Harlem first.
Well, I love jazz, so my favorite place in Harlem is Showman's Jazz Cafe.
Oh yeah, okay.
Miss Harlem. So, and I have so many places that are my favorite. Harlem is my favorite place. The whole village of Harlem is my favorite place to hang out, and that's what I do every day. And I want to ask our listeners to please support our Underrepresented Minority Scholarship Fund, and what you can do is call me at 646-981-4519. 646-981-4519, and you can catch it by email by writing to Geoffrey, Geoffrey, .EATON @touro.edu. And we'll send information out to you. We welcome you to come visit the school. I'll set up a tour. You'll be excited. Tell your neighbors, tell your corporate friends that we are making a difference, and we are increasing students of color into that medical profession, and it looks really good.
And thank you, Geoffrey Eaton, for sharing your experience with us and your knowledge, and we really look forward to the work that you're going to do. We've already enjoyed the work you've been doing in Harlem for, can I say, decades, and really look forward to the next decades of work that you do, and appreciate taking your time to be on the show. And I'm sure our readers will respond. And again, thank you for being on the show, Geoffrey Eaton.
And we appreciate you. Harlem appreciates the Danny Tisdale Radio Show. Stay in tune and keep watching what this amazing program is doing. Danny, you have been fantastic, and Harlem Magazine is off the hook. So happy Harlem Renaissance to the new Danny Tisdale Radio Show. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Take care, and the best to you. Have a great weekend. And folks, thank you for listening, and we'll be back for another Tuesday, and have a great weekend, and we will speak to you very soon. But don't you forget to share us, like us, and donate to your favorite organizations, but especially the organizations that are in Harlem, and especially the one that Geoffrey Eaton mentioned, which is the Underrepresented Minority Fund URM program. Talk to you soon. All the best. Peace.